Hey everyone, thanks for joining. Today we're going to review The Walking Dead episode 18, A New Deal. Don't forget to like and subscribe if you are enjoying this content. I review Walking Dead episodes each week and plan on reviewing the new series as they come up. So let's get reviewing. This episode starts exactly where we left off in lockdown last week. Our folks are surrounded by the Commonwealth Army, and Daryl has Hornsby, and with the knife against his neck, he's ready to just get rid of him. Let's kill him and be rid of his stupidity and his barbaricness. And then, all of a sudden, Mercer comes walking in with Pamela and Carol, although you don't see her when they first come walking in there, and they stop them. They're like, stop. Don't do this. We need him alive. And I'm starting to believe that, maybe they did make this deal with Carol because she wants Hornsby, she wants him alive. And Mercer, walks over to Daryl and he's like, you don't want to do this. This is not the way you want this to be done. And Daryl's taken back a little bit. He's like, what, are you choosing him? And Mercer was like, if I was choosing him, you'd be dead. And then Carol kind of jumps up and says, and just looks at Daryl. He's like, don't do it. And Daryl's like, what did you do? And she said, I made a plan to get us out of the Commonwealth. Don't kill him. And Daryl knows that when Carol does things, she does them for the best of the group. So he didn't do it. He let him go. But Daryl had to have one good measure, because even though they didn't want him to be killed, or they didn't want Daryl to kill him, Daryl said, I'm going to give him a little something to remember me by, and he stabbed him right in the hand. So he didn't kill him, but he was just maimed a little bit. Upon that, the next scene shows our folks standing outside, kind of trying to decide what they wanted to do. Carol made this plan that would give them supplies and weapons, and it also helped them rebuild Alexandria and Hilltop, but they really all needed to decide that this was the thing they wanted to do. And with her bag full of apples, they kind of went through it talking, and Maggie was, said that, as long as they could be together under their own rules, this might be a chance to take, because they don't really trust anything that they say. And so Daryl is just like, okay, he went in that bag and got the apple, and they didn't show the rest, but I'm sure that after Daryl picked up the apple, everybody wanted to pick it up as well. So the next scene shows Pamela with Hornsby. They got him on his knees. She's going over to him, and he thinks that it's just like, okay, Pamela, it's just me and you. We can talk this through. We can get through this. But Pamela's like really angry with him. And she's kind of like, you aren't even important. You think you might be important. A lot of the stuff she's probably pretty pissed off about, but she should be pissed at herself for letting them do it. Acting like she didn't know, being complicit. But she is holding steady that she's going to deliver him to the residents of the Commonwealth so that she can, get her son off. Although she's not kind of saying that she's going to get her son off, but he knows, and he's telling her, look, I got people too, if something happens to me, there are going to be people that are upset. There'll be people that can really kind of shake the cart in the Commonwealth. And she's still going, you're nobody. There's no reason for us to be even worried about you. And she kind of walks away, and he tells her, he said, look, I don't know what kind of thing you got going on, but I'm still in play here, So we have to see what he's up to, because I believe him, and, he's like, I'm a player, and you're not going to just be able to get rid of me. So it starts back with Pamela being in her office area, talking to the residents, well, mostly the protesters. she wants to let them know that, Hornsby did all of this craziness and killing people. It wasn't her son. And that she's going to bring Hornsby to justice. And mostly the people were just rolling their eyes because they didn't believe that. They knew it was Sebastian. They knew that this was a cover-up for him. And Pamela started to talk about the new Founders Day holiday. Or I don't think it was a new Founders Day. I think it was the Founders Day holiday that was happening. And she just wanted to make sure that everybody knew that we are one family. And, we're going to get everything back on track. That kind of, upbeat talk. Where people were just like, okay, whatever. And, but Max, who had been sitting on the side, was, she was looking like, oh my God, no, I don't want her putting Sebastian up there talking at Founders Day and, doing this stuff to Hornsby so that, to make him look better because, he's trash. And so you could tell that there was something spinning in her mind just right there. But there was something that was really interesting. She looked up at Hornsby and he looked down at her. And, it was kind of an interesting look. And I was thinking to myself, when Hornsby was talking with Pamela, he was like, look, I got people in there. I have people that, if anything was to happen to me, you might not have it as easy. And so I was going, does he have something? Is Max one of those? We'll only have to find out as things move along. So we come back to our group. They're starting to pack up things since they're going to be able to leave. And there is a group of people being led by Aaron. And they're going to go over to Oceanside, and they're going to go by Alexandria and Hilltop just to make sure they tell everybody about the plan, what is going on. Also to see what kind of food and weapons and rebuilding materials they may need, since that was part of the deal made with Pamela, that they would have these things. And at one point, they moved to Daryl kind of seeing stuff in his bag, putting things in the bag, but he come across Rick's gun. And as we all know, Michonne gave Judith Rick's gun, and I don't know that she's not been using it, but it definitely looks like it was away. And so Daryl wanted to give it back to her. He said, this is yours. And she's like, I don't want it. I think that Judith is feeling like this world, needs to be a better world. And she wants it to be a world where they don't need weapons. And she may be a little girl, and that's a little bit more idealism. But she's right. This needs to be that kind of world. I don't think it's there yet, but I understand where she's coming from. She feels like as long as she has that gun, that we're in this barbaric world. We're not in this new world. With her living and being in a community at the Commonwealth, you feel safe. You're just a kid. You don't know all of the crap that's happening in the background. And she didn't want any part of it. And also, even in another tone, because it was really funny, it's like, I don't want the gun, but she chastised Daryl and them a little bit just to say, how are we leaving these people if these people are so bad, that we get to leave? Why weren't we staying here to help them? And to the point, Daryl's just so done. I think it's just so much that happened with Hornsby and all this stuff, and he was just like saying, stop, just stop, stop. But I think she got a point across to Daryl, though, because I think he felt bad. He felt like, we did this for, we stayed around and we took care of Hilltop and Alexandria. We stayed through the hard times to try to make it better times, and then he he actually went and found his angel jacket, which I thought was the coolest thing. I was like, oh, there he is, Daryl's back. And that was actually a really cool part of the story. But then he went into the room, he wanted to go out and show Judith that he had his jacket, his vest back on, he was ready, and she wasn't there. So he talked to RJ for a little bit, and RJ wasn't supposed to tell him that Judith left, but honestly didn't know where she went anyway. But he did tell her that she left, and he didn't know where she would be. And in the end, he actually found her at the church where Gabriel and Rosita was. And they got to make up, they got to sit down and talk. And he said, I wish the world was like you want it to be, and it should be that way, but right now it's not. And I have to do the things that I need to do to take care of you and keep you safe. And isn't that really very Rick when he would talk about the things that he had to do in order to keep Carl safe? And in the end, we lost Carl and we lost Rick, although he's not really lost. And in that instance, she understood that, and they were able to make up. And she just wanted to be able to go and say goodbye to her friends. And I think that ultimately that's what it is. She didn't want to leave because she had made a life there. And she had people that she knew and that enjoyed and she had friendship with. But, it's when it's time to go, it's just time to go. They had a scene where Ezekiel was kind of putting together a petting zoo. And Carol went over to him and was just like, you don't have to do this anymore. We are, the deal was made and we don't have to stay here. And, Ezekiel was like, I want to do this. I want to be here. I want to, have some purpose. And Carol looked at him and said, you're not coming with us, are you? And Ezekiel is not going to come back. That made me just so sad. He really, I think that with the issues that he's had, the medical stuff, because they'll have medical back when they get themselves up and running in Alexandria. He is just like, I found a purpose. I want to be able to help people that may need help for as long as I can before, this time is taken away from me. And he just continued to start helping children come inside the cute little petting zoo with the goats. And I just start to think, I know that everybody's not going to make it through the end of this season. And I keep wondering, I know in the comic books, Ezekiel didn't make it, and he's probably made it longer than ever thought. But, I'd like to see him at the end. I hope that there's nothing that happens like that. He gets bitten by walkers or that they cut off his head. We'll see. But that was a pretty poignant scene for me because he was just, thanking Carol for all that she did for him and that he just wants to be able to help people while he can help people. Pamela is going to have Sebastian do a little bit of a speech. Just her way of just getting him in there, having people see that, he's an important part of the community that people don't even want him to be a part of, actually. But she wants to kind of make him get some standing. And he feels so entitled. He's just kind of like, well, I'm important because I'm a Minton. I'm important because I'm part of this family. I don't want to tell him. I don't want to speak to him and give him any, encouragement. I don't want to give him any good spirit or anything. And Max was on the side and she was just looking tore up because she knows that this is a person that doesn't, he sucks. And she just feels like she's been complicit in how this behavior has been going on, because she hasn't said anything. She hasn't said anything about what Sebastian was doing. She knows he's not the right kind of person to be in there. And so she kind of talks Eugene into going to Hornsby, who is now in prison, asks him to give them some information about the Miltons that they might be able to use. And of course, Eugene did that, and he took him a little candy apple, which I'm not really sure what the candy apple means, because he's kind of been looking at it. Eugene went there, gave him a candy apple, and then just kind of asked them the information. Is there something about the Miltons that you can give us that can kind of help us? And he was just like, no. He's like, you can't really do anything about the Miltons. They are the party in charge, and going against them is going to be at your own detriment. So if I was you, I wouldn't do that. However, he did say that, that Max is always very invisible. You know what I mean? She's able to, they will speak to her without kind of knowing what they're saying, or knowing that they should be quiet. So in its way, he was just kind of going, don't mess around with the Miltons, but you can really mess around with the Miltons. Max can, because she's invisible almost, right? And so Max took that information. She took it and she went to talk to Sebastian, just to see where his head was like saying, you can be a leader. You really can if you want to be a leader. And in the end, he was like, no, this is like BS, and this whole community is nothing but BS, and it's just made so the poor never get anything. She actually chooses the people that take the lottery, and so that's not even transparency. And she was like, we give them what they want, and they do what we need them to do, so that we can do whatever we want to do. Meaning that the poor will do everything that they need to do, so that the rich can do what they want to do. And and at this point, Max knew that he had no remorse. He wouldn't be a good leader. As a matter of fact, he'd be a terrible leader. And she knew that there was something that she had to do. And and I think I was remiss, because I should have said that when she was talking to him about telling him that he could be a really good leader and he could do things, she had started to record the conversation. So she was devising a plan of her own with this information that she had. And we'll have to wait to see what happened with that. So everybody's out and about on Founders Day. They had a little wrestling thing that happened that was fun to watch. All of the kids got to enjoy that. And so after this wrestling thing, Pamela and Sebastian and I guess all of the kind of the leaders got into the ring, and they were starting to give all of their speeches. And Pamela gave her speech about Founders Day and her grandfather, and how through this time the Miltons were the leadership group of the Commonwealth, and she wanted to give Sebastian an opportunity to come up and say a few words. Earlier that day, Max had given the recording to Eugene, who was, I guess, up in the area playing the music on the loudspeakers where everybody can hear. And so when Sebastian came up to start giving his speech, he started a little something, and then she gave Eugene the nod. And he started playing all that crap he was saying that she recorded. Like, oh, this place is just built on lies. Everybody's just so stupid. We're not doing anything for them. And he realized that she had recorded. That was the stuff he had said to her. He was livid. And the people in the audience, the residents, started throwing stuff at Sebastian. They was just not having it. It was going to be like a full-on revolt. And so there was just pandemonium, people running around, Sebastian getting down, Max running, he trying to find her, he's trying to catch her. And a group of walkers had broken through the walls. And that was really interesting because they hadn't talked about that. They talked about it a little bit in the previous episode, but I know that I thought at that point that they had figured that out in the previous episode. But obviously not. So the walkers had started, had breached the wall, and they started coming into the center there. And, people were getting bit. They was grabbing people. People were getting bit. And, our group, they were out there. They were helping. They were shooting, walkers and that kind of thing. And all of a sudden, Max just kind of like gets caught by Sebastian. And she kicked his ass a little bit. But a walker captured him. He caught him. And he was screaming. He was just like, help me, help me. And, everybody was looking around like they didn't know who he was, ever. Because, nobody really trusted him. He was such a terrible person that nobody even wanted to give him a hand. And it was at that point that, Daryl was helping, and Judith was just like, I want the gun. She wanted to help. I want the gun. So Daryl gave her Rick's gun, and they were shooting and, killing walkers. But that walker got his teeth into Sebastian, and he was biting them, and nobody was scared. They were sitting around like it was New Year's Eve. And then she shot the walker dead, but by that time Sebastian's neck was toe open, and he was just bleeding to death. But nobody shot him. They didn't put him out his misery. But eventually he did just, he died. But I don't know if it was enough. Does he come back? Does he come back as a walker? We'll have to see. So the episode ended with Sebastian being our casualty. Rest in peace, Sebastian. It's good that you're gone. And now we'll see the fallout for Max and for Eugene in the next episode. It's going to be an exciting episode. But I want to talk about one more thing before we end today. And it's Hornsby. Now, if you remember in the last episode, we talked about these two goons that were going after Carol and the kids. And, but they weren't able to kind of find them. But they were in this episode too. They were there where the folks that were kind of working on the Founders Day things, and they were waiting for the lottery to come up and just kind of talking about, when I get the lottery, I won't, forget about you. Well, they went in there and they killed them. It had to be about 10 people, maybe more, but it had to be about 10 people, and they killed them. And I don't even understand why they killed them. Is there some way that, they think that, or that Hornsby thinks that, that Pamela will blame it on somebody else because he was, in jail, and maybe it starts a little civil war there within the Commonwealth. And the thing that makes it so interesting is that, I never realized they had been sent by Hornsby, although, you have that thing in the back of your mind that maybe so. But at one point, Hornsby was in jail, looked up out of, they made a little noise. He looked up out the window, and it was the two of them, and they were just like, thumbs up. We did some stuff, and then he was happier than, happy. He was happier than happy that he could be. And he devoured that candy apple. Again, I'm not sure what that whole candy apple thing means. I probably need to go back and look at some of the old ones just to see where he and Eugene and this candy apple kind of fit in together. So tell me what you think about this episode. Do you think that Pamela may blame our group for this thing happening, and maybe it kind of changes what she did with Carol? What about Hornsby? What do you think? What are your theories about what he's trying to do? Because I know it's going to be something big. I think he is going to be the last villain for us in these last days of the Walking Dead episodes. So put your comments, put your theories, put them down in the comments. Tell me what you think. If you like my videos, please subscribe and like the video, and I'll see you next time.